Hear me clearly today. This is not just another moment, not just another message, not just another day on the calendar. Today is the day God changes your story. You've cried enough tears, carried enough weight, questioned yourself long enough. You've been faithful in silence, obedient in confusion, and patient in pain. And I came to announce to you, heaven has not forgotten your name. What the enemy meant to break you, God has been using to build you. What looked like delay was divine preparation. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. You thought the chapter was ending, but God says, I'm just turning the page. Don't let your past talk louder than God's promise. Don't let what happened to you convince you of who you are. You are not the mistake. You are the miracle in progress. The same God who opened seas, shut lions' mouths, and raised the dead is standing in your today, ready to rewrite your tomorrow. This is the moment when mourning turns into dancing. This is the moment when weakness turns into strength. This is the moment when God says, enough is enough. Now watch what I do. Lift your expectation. Align your faith. Open your spirit. Because today is not ordinary. Today is ordained. And when God steps into your story, nothing stays the same. Some of you have been living under the weight of yesterday for far too long. You wake up every morning carrying memories that God never intended to define you. Mistakes replay in your mind. Regrets whisper in your ear. Failures try to sit on your shoulders and tell you who you are. But I came to interrupt that lie with a truth that will set you free. Your past does not have the final word. What happened to you may explain where you've been, but it does not determine where God is taking you. You cannot let a season become a sentence. You cannot allow a chapter to cancel the entire book. Just because you failed does not mean you are finished. Just because you were broken does not mean you are disqualified. God has never consulted your past to decide your future. He looks at purpose, not history. He looks at calling, not confusion. He looks at destiny, not dysfunction. There are people listening right now who keep rehearsing what they should have done, what they could have done, what they wish they had done. You keep trying to go back and fix something that God has already redeemed. You keep apologizing for something God already forgave. You keep punishing yourself for something God already covered by grace. And the reason you feel stuck is not because God stopped moving. It's because you're still living where He already delivered you from. God does not define you by your worst moment. He defines you by His purpose. If your past had the power to cancel your destiny, you would not still be breathing. If your mistakes were greater than God's mercy, you would not still be standing. The fact that you are still here is proof that God is not finished. Heaven would not keep you alive if hell had won. Some of you survived things that should have destroyed you. You went through abuse, betrayal, abandonment, failure, addiction, loss, shame, and disappointment, and yet you're still standing. That alone tells me that God has His hand on your life. The enemy tried to end you, but God preserved you. The enemy tried to silence you, but God protected you. The enemy tried to define you by what you did, but God defines you by what He called you to be. You must stop introducing yourself by your pain. You are not the one who messed up. You are not the one who failed. You are not the one who got left. You are not the one who didn't make it. You are the one God kept. You are the one God chose. You are the one God is restoring. And what God restores, He restores with purpose. God is a master at rewriting stories. He takes people who were counted out and brings them back counted in. He takes people who were labeled and relabels them with grace. He takes people who were rejected and repositions them for impact. He takes what looked like a permanent stain and turns it into a powerful testimony. What you thought ruined you is about to reveal you. You see, the enemy wants you to believe that because it happened, it must always define you. But God says, because it happened, I can use it. The very thing that embarrassed you is going to empower someone else. The very thing that broke you is going to build someone else. The very thing you tried to hide is going to become the proof that God can redeem anything. Stop letting yesterday sit in the driver's seat of your life. Stop letting old voices tell you what you cannot be. Stop letting old failures decide new possibilities. You cannot drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. There comes a moment when you must tell your past, you are not coming with me into my future. God is doing a new thing, but you cannot experience it while clinging to old shame. God is opening new doors, but you cannot walk through them while dragging old guilt. God is releasing new levels, but you cannot rise while chained to old labels. You have to let it go, not because it didn't hurt, not because it didn't matter, but because God has something greater ahead. Hear this clearly. Your past may be a chapter, but it is not the conclusion. God specializes in plot twists. When everyone thought the story was over, he steps in and says, watch this. When it looks like the end, God says, this is where the turnaround begins. When people expect tragedy, God releases triumph. What if what you went through was not meant to destroy you, but to develop you? What if the pain trained you, the pressure shaped you, the struggle strengthened you, and the tears purified you? What if God was using what you hated to prepare you for what you prayed for? Suddenly, your past doesn't look like punishment. It looks like preparation. You didn't go through all of that just to stay the same. You didn't survive all of that just to live small. You didn't endure all of that just to quit now. There is a reason you are still here, and it is bigger than your mistakes. It is bigger than your failure. It is bigger than your fear. God is not calling you backward. He is calling you forward. The moment you stop agreeing with your past is the moment your future begins to respond. The moment you stop seeing yourself through yesterday's pain is the moment you begin to see yourself through God's promise. You don't need a new past. You need a renewed mind. You don't need to erase what happened. You need to trust what God is doing now. Today, make a decision. I will no longer let what was defend what will be. I will no longer allow old wounds to control new seasons. I will no longer let shame speak louder than grace. I will no longer let my history limit my destiny. Your past does not get the last word. God does. And when God speaks, chains break, doors open, and stories change. There are moments in life when the waiting feels heavier than the struggle itself. You prayed with faith. You believed with everything in you. You stepped out in obedience, and still nothing seemed to move. Days turned into months, months into years, and somewhere along the way a quiet question crept into your spirit. Did God forget me? I came to silence that question today. Delay is not denial. What feels like God withholding is often God working. We live in a world that celebrates instant results, but God is not rushed by your timeline. He is committed to your transformation. If God answered every prayer the moment you asked, you might receive the blessing, but you wouldn't be ready to sustain it. So instead of rushing the promise, God develops the person. He prepares the vessel before he pours out the oil. He strengthens the roots before he allows the tree to grow tall. Some of you thought the delay meant rejection. You assumed the closed door meant no when heaven was really saying not yet. God saw what you couldn't see. He knew what you were asking for required more maturity, more wisdom, more endurance, more faith than you had at the time. So he didn't cancel the promise. He scheduled the process. Waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are training grounds. They are classrooms where God teaches you patience, trust, discipline, humility, and resilience. In the waiting, your character is refined. In the waiting, your faith is tested. In the waiting, your dependence on God deepens. If you skip the waiting, you skip the development. And undeveloped blessings often become burdens. You ask God to elevate you, but elevation without preparation leads to collapse. You ask God to increase you, but increase without integrity leads to destruction. You ask God to bless you, but blessing without balance leads to burnout. So God pauses the process, not to punish you, but to protect you. He loves you too much to give you something that would break you. What you call delay, God calls alignment. He is lining up people, resources, timing, and opportunities so that when the blessing arrives, it doesn't just come, it stays. God is not interested in short-term breakthroughs that lead to long-term regret. He is building something sustainable, something lasting, something that won't fall apart under pressure. Some of you are frustrated because you see others moving ahead of you. They got the promotion faster. They got married sooner. They launched quicker. They seem further along. But you don't know what God is doing behind the scenes in your life. Comparison will make you despise your process. And when you despise the process, you delay your own progress. God deals with each person uniquely. What worked for them may not work for you. What they could handle, you might not yet be ready to carry. And what looks like a shortcut for them might be a setup for disaster if you took the same path. Trust God enough to let Him develop you at His pace. The delay is developing your discernment. It's teaching you how to hear God's voice more clearly. It's teaching you how to say no to distractions and yes to purpose. It's teaching you how to wait without complaining and trust without seeing. Development doesn't feel good, but it produces strength you cannot get any other way. Some of you would have quit if God had given you the promise too early. The pressure would have overwhelmed you. The responsibility would have crushed you. The opposition would have discouraged you. So God kept you hidden, not because you weren't good enough, but because you were valuable. He hides what He intends to protect. Delay also exposes motives. It reveals whether you want God's hand or God's heart. It shows whether you are chasing purpose or applause. It strips away pride and replaces it with humility. And when your motives are pure, God knows you're ready for more. You see, development happens in the dark. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. No one claps for roots, but roots determine the height of the tree. What God is building in you right now may not be visible, but it is vital. Just because others can't see it doesn't mean it's in. OT happening. Stop interpreting silence as absence. God is often the quietest when He is doing the deepest work. He is strengthening your inner life. He is healing old wounds. He is breaking unhealthy patterns. He is reshaping your thinking. He is preparing you to handle what you once begged for. If God seems slow, it's because He is thorough. He is not just answering a prayer. He is shaping a destiny. He is not just opening a door. He is preparing you to walk through it with wisdom and confidence. He is not just changing your situation. He is changing you. There are things God could give you right now, but if He did, they would pull you away from Him instead of closer to Him. So He waits until the blessing won't replace Him. He waits until the gift won't become your God. He waits until you can receive it and still stay grounded. Don't rush what God is refining. Don't abandon the process because it's uncomfortable. Don't walk away because it's taking longer than you expected. Some of the most powerful transformations happen right before the breakthrough. The pressure you feel is often a sign that change is near. What if this delay is actually proof that what you're asking for is big? What if heaven is taking its time because the assignment requires depth, not just talent? What if God is building endurance in you so that when the blessing comes, you won't just celebrate it, you'll steward it well? The waiting is not working against you, it's working for you. Every lesson lead. Indeed, every tear cried, every prayer whispered, every time you chose faith over fear, it all matters. None of it is wasted. God counts it all. One day you'll look back and thank God He didn't rush it. You'll realize the delay saved you, strengthened you, and positioned you. You'll see that if it had happened sooner, you wouldn't have been ready. And you'll understand that God's timing was not late, it was perfect. So stay faithful in the wait. Stay obedient in the silence. Stay hopeful in the process. Because what God promised is still on the way. And when it arrives, you'll be developed enough to handle it, wise enough to protect it, and strong enough to sustain it. Delay is not denial, it's development. There are moments when God does not announce what He is about to do. He doesn't send a warning. He doesn't give a countdown. He doesn't explain the process. He simply steps into a situation and changes everything at once. One moment you're struggling, the next moment you're standing in awe saying, "How did this happen so fast?" This is how God works. Suddenly, You've been conditioned to think that because it took a long time to get into trouble, it must take a long time to get out. You've been told that healing is slow, restoration is gradual, and breakthrough is always delayed. But I came to remind you that the same God who allows seasons also releases moments. And when God decides it's time, what took years to break can be turned around in an instant. Suddenly is God's spare. S-E-L-T. He doesn't need your circumstances to improve before he moves. He doesn't need people to agree with you. He doesn't need the odds to be in your favor. He doesn't need the numbers to make sense. All he needs is a moment. And when that moment arrives, everything shifts. You may have been faithful for years with no recognition. You may have prayed for a long time with no visible answer. You may have knocked on doors that never opened and trusted people who never showed up. And the danger is not the waiting. The danger is assuming that because nothing has happened yet, nothing will happen at all. That assumption is wrong. God is not slow, he is strategic. Suddenly, moments often come after long stretches of silence. They arrive when you least expect them. You go to bed one night thinking tomorrow will look like yesterday, and you wake up to news, opportunities, favor, or clarity you never saw coming. One phone call, one conversation, one encounter, one decision, one touch from God, and the direction of your life changes. God does not need gradual improvement to bring immediate change. He can heal in a moment what medicine couldn't fix for years. He can restore in a moment what took decades to break. He can open in a moment what no amount of effort could unlock. When God says now, resistance has no choice but to move. Some of you are discouraged because you've been consistent, but nothing seems to be happening. You've shown up, prayed, believed, served, waited, and still no breakthrough. But consistency does not always produce visible results immediately. Sometimes consistency positions you for a sudden release. You weren't wasting time, you were building pressure, and pressure precedes breakthrough. What God is about to do will not look like what you went through. The struggle prepared you, but it will not define the outcome. The pain trained you, but it will not control the promise. The delay sharpened you, but it will not cancel the blessing. When God moves suddenly, he bypasses the process people expect. Suddenly, moments are not random. They are the result of divine timing. God was aligning things you couldn't see, hearts you never met, doors you never knocked on, answers you didn't even know to pray for. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was arranging everything. You see, God often waits until there is no doubt that it was him. He waits until the situation is so impossible that when the breakthrough comes, nobody can take credit but God. No connections can explain it. No talent can justify it. No effort can account for it. All you can say is, only God could have done this. That's why sudden breakthroughs often follow seasons of humility. God removes self-reliance so that when the miracle happens, you don't praise the method, you praise the maker. He strips away shortcuts so that when the door opens, you know it wasn't manipulation, it was divine intervention. Some of you are closer than you think. The frustration you feel is not a sign of failure. It's often a sign that change is near. The enemy fights hardest when he knows his time is short. Resistance intensifies right before release. Pressure increases right before promotion. If you quit now, you quit too early. God can restore years in a moment. He can give you back joy you lost slowly all at once. He can turn your tears into testimony overnight. He can take you from surviving to thriving faster than you imagined. What looks impossible to you is effortless to him. Suddenly also requires readiness. God may move fast, but you must be willing to move with him. When the door opens, hesitation can cost you. When the opportunity appears, fear can delay you. Faith positions you to step forward. When God says, now stop limiting God to patterns you've seen before. He doesn't need to repeat himself to prove himself. Just because he hasn't done it yet doesn't mean he won't do it next. God reserves sudden breakthroughs for moments when people least expect them, but most need them. You may not feel ready, but readiness is not about perfection. It's about trust. If God brings it, he will sustain it. If God opens it, he will guide you through it. If God elevates you, he will keep you grounded. You don't have to understand how. Just be willing to say yes. One day you will testify, I didn't see it coming. You'll say, I was just being faithful, and suddenly everything changed. You'll look back at the waiting and realize it was the setup. You'll see that the silence was not absence. It was preparation. God is not bound by your timeline. He is not intimidated by your obstacles. He is not discouraged by your failures. When he decides to act, he does it with authority. And when God moves suddenly, chains break quickly, doors open instantly, and stories change permanently. So don't lose hope. Don't slow your faith. Don't stop believing just because it hasn't happened yet. Heaven is closer than you think. The shift is nearer than it appears. The breakthrough is already scheduled. God changes stories suddenly. And when he does, nothing can stop it. There are wounds you didn't choose, battles you didn't start, and pain you didn't deserve. Things hit you from directions you never saw coming. People betrayed you, doors slammed shut, dreams collapsed, and seasons ended without explanation. And for a long time, it felt like all of that was meant to destroy you. But I came to tell you the truth. The enemy never wanted you to discover. What tried to break you is about to promote you. The very pressure that crushed others sharpened you. The fire that was supposed to consume you refined you. The storm that should have drowned you taught you how to walk on water. You didn't just survive it, you were shaped by it. And God never wastes pain, he repurposes it. You see, the enemy always overplays his hand. He attacks what threatens him. He targets potential. He fights destiny. The intensity of your battle is proof of the size of your sea. Owling. Hell doesn't fight empty people. If the struggle was heavy, it's because the assignment is great. Some of you went through things that stripped you down to nothing. You lost people, identity, confidence, stability, and peace. You were reduced, misunderstood, and misjudged. But reduction is often preparation for promotion. God removes what you leaned on so you can learn to stand on him. And when God promotes you, he doesn't lift you for applause. He lifts you for purpose. The pain taught you discernment. You no longer trust blindly. You learned how to read seasons, recognize motives, and protect your spirit. The heartbreak made you wiser. The disappointment made you stronger. The betrayal made you more prayerful. What hurt you educated you. What tried to break you also deepened your compassion. You now see people differently. You feel more deeply. You pray more sincerely. You love more intentionally. God is shaping you into someone who can carry influence without losing empathy. Promotion without compassion creates pride, but promotion shaped by pain creates impact. People see the strength now, but they didn't see the nights you cried alone. They admire the confidence, but they didn't witness the fear you had to confront. They celebrate the success, but they don't know the sacrifice behind it. And that's okay, because promotion doesn't come from people. It comes from God. God promotes people who have been processed. He elevates those who have endured pressure without losing their character. He advances those who learned obedience in hidden places. The struggle purified your motives. It stripped away ego. It taught you humility. That's why you're ready. Some of you were pushed out of places you thought you belonged. You were rejected, overlooked, dismissed, and replaced. But rejection was not the end. It was redirection. God removed you from environments that could no longer sustain your growth. What felt like loss was actually positioning. You would have stayed comfortable if they hadn't pushed you. You would have settled if the door hadn't closed. You would have shrunk if the pressure hadn't forced you to stretch. God used what hurt you to move you forward. The same people who doubted you will be surprised by you. The same voices that spoke against you will be silenced by your fruit. The same situation that embarrassed you will now elevate you. God has a way of turning humiliation into honor. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof of survival, and survival creates authority. You carry a weight now. You speak with credibility. You don't just quote hope, you've lived it. You don't just talk about faith, you've depended on it. That's promotion. God is about to trust you with more because you've proven faithful with less. He's about to expand your influence because you didn't let bitterness take root. He's about to open doors because you learned to forgive. The pain didn't poison you, it prepared you. Promotion doesn't always look like a title. Sometimes it's peace, sometimes it's clarity, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's freedom, sometimes it's purpose, and sometimes it's all of the above. God's promotion always aligns with your calling, not your ego. What tried to break you made you dangerous in the best way. Dangerous to fear, dangerous to doubt, dangerous to limitation. You know what it feels like to lose everything and still stand. That means you're no longer controlled by the threat of loss. And that kind of freedom attracts favor. You're not rising in spite of the pain. You're rising because of it. The struggle built endurance. The tears built strength. The pressure built resilience. And now you can carry what once would have crushed you. There is a confidence that only comes from surviving storms. There is a boldness that only comes from overcoming adversity. There is an authority that only comes from pain transformed into power. And you carry it now. God is taking the very thing the enemy used to try to disqualify you and using it as your qualification. Your story gives you access. Your testimony gives you influence. Your journey gives you credibility. What broke you open is now opening doors. So don't be ashamed of where you've been. Don't minimize what you survived. Don't hide what God healed. That pain has a purpose. That struggle has a reward. That season has an expiration date. And you are stepping into the promotion it prepared you for. What tried to break you didn't succeed. It positioned you. There is a moment when everything hinges on what you choose to believe. Not what you see, not what you feel, not what people say, but what you believe. Because faith is not passive, it is active. Faith is the trigger that activates the shift God has already prepared. Heaven may have the plan, but faith is what gives it permission to move in your life. Many people are waiting on God, but God is waiting on them. Waiting on them to believe beyond their emotions, waiting on them to trust beyond their logic, waiting on them to step beyond their comfort. Faith is not denying reality. It is declaring that God is greater than reality. It is saying, I see the facts, but I stand on the truth. You don't need more faith. You need active faith. Faith that speaks when circumstances are silent. Faith that moves when fear says stay still. Faith that praises before the breakthrough arrives. Faith that obeys without explanations. Because faith is not proven by words, it is proven by action. God responds to faith because faith aligns you with His power. When you believe, you position yourself to receive. When you doubt, you delay what God is ready to release. Faith doesn't make God able. God is already able. Faith makes you available. Some of you have been praying, but you haven't been expecting. You've been believing in theory, but not in practice. You asked God for a miracle, but you didn't prepare for change. You prayed for new doors, but you stayed comfortable bubbling with old routines. Faith prepares room for what it believes God will do. If you believe healing is coming, you stop talking like you're defeated. If you believe restoration is coming, you stop acting like it's over. If you believe breakthrough is near, you stop settling for survival. Faith changes how you speak, how you walk, how you decide, and how you respond. Faith is what moves you from waiting to walking. It's what pushes you to take the step even when the ground looks uncertain. Faith doesn't wait for confirmation. It becomes the confirmation. The shift begins the moment you align your belief with God's promise. Fear says, what if it doesn't work? Faith says, what if it does? Fear rehearses loss. Faith rehearses victory. Fear magnifies obstacles. Faith magnifies God. And whatever you magnify begins to shape your reality. You cannot activate a new season with an old mindset. Faith requires renewal. It requires letting go of what failed, what hurt, what disappointed you. Faith doesn't mean you forget the pain. It means you refuse to let it control your future. You choose trust over trauma. Some of you are standing at the edge of change, but fear has frozen you. You're afraid to hope again, afraid to believe